Men are lonely. Have you thought about the situation for men in today's society? In Sweden, where I live, 1 out of 5 men doesn't have a close friend. 3 out of 4 are homeless, are men. 70% of suicides are committed by men. 4 out of 5 assaults are perpetrated by men. 90% of fatal car accidents are caused by men. We need to do something about this. I have devoted myself as the Secretary General for Men for Gender Equality Sweden to work for change. The list is endless on how society forms us as men, as women, as gender beings. These patriarchal norms that we have in our society form us and how we should behave, act, and think. Men, young boys are taught, be brave, be courageous, make money, seduce, be tough, be a real man. And these patriarchal norms that we have in our society prevent us as men to complain about this issue. Even so, we are as men privileged by our gender. We have the economical power in our societies. We have the top level jobs. We earn more money. We get higher pensions. We're not objectified as women are in our societies. We don't need to overperform in order for others to listen to us. Public life is created by men and for men. A vast majority of men benefit from this, especially those who are white, heterosexual, middle-class, educated. So these white, middle-class men like myself, we don't need to reflect on these issues unless we want to, as we're the norm in our societies. But the price for not doing so is, as we heard in the beginning, very high. So it's obvious that as men, we're part of the problem. So we need to be part of the solution. In 1999, as a young student, I was forming myself into adulthood. I was thinking a lot about norms, gender norms and other norms. Then I wanted to talk about these issues with other men. And fortunately, I did meet other men who had formed a feminist discussion group for men. So once a month, we met and talked about personal and private issues. We talked about the relationships to our fathers, to friends, to women, our sexualities, a lot of other issues. This brought us closer to each other and closer to ourselves. And it changed me and transformed me, and this change has been going on ever since. Men benefit from gender equality. We are experts on our own lives. The personal is political. How can we then, as men, be part of the change? How can we, as men, engage? I believe in making things personal. From my experience, the key for engaging men is to challenge them and talk about personal and private issues. One window where we can do this is through fatherhood. Myself, I became a father in 2008. My son was born, and in Sweden we have 2 weeks paid leave from our government when we get parents. So I stayed at home for 2 weeks, but then I had to return to work. But after only 6 months, I went home again and stayed 1 year alone with my son on parental leave. So we had a great year together, and I also understood, apart from seeing my son growing up, what caregiving means. And I understood what women have been doing for centuries, that men also can be good caregivers with our kids. But it's not easy, because today, as I'm here with you talking about engaging men in gender equality, my son finished his first year in school. So today I miss this important event in my son's and in my life, because I'm here to talk about men and caregiving. So it's definitely not easy. But I know that my son, he's proud of me being here to meet all of you and talk about this, as I'm equally proud of him finishing his first year in school. Caring is human, and we all have the potential to be caregivers, no matter our gender. We all want to feel valued and needed as human beings. By caring for others, we do care for ourselves. My daughter was born in 2010, so she's 4 years now, and she's not yet finishing her first school year. So I will not miss that, at least in 2 years' time. And with her, I also spent 8 months on leave, on parental leave. And combining these two effects of being with my son and my daughter really made me understand what caregiving means and how important it is to be caregiving and be close fathers with our kids. And I just want to share with you some research results. I don't like PowerPoint, so I'm not using one, so I'm going to read these. When men engage as fathers and caregivers, research has shown that gender equality within relationships will increase. Divorces will be lower. Men will develop our social competences and skills. There will be reduced gender-based violence and violence within the family. Men will be less risky in their behavior. And men and women and children will have healthier lives. So it's very obvious that as men, we have a lot to earn as caregivers, as women too. But today, who are the primary parent? It's women. So I call to men to start caring more and step up our caregiving. Men for Gender Equality, my organization in Sweden, we work with fatherhood trainings because we see that fatherhood is one space where we can engage men, because it's a window that is open. When men become fathers, we have a window to open up where they can come and talk to us about private and personal issues. 3 out of 4 men in the world will become a biological father one day. So this window is an important window. But we need to talk to men about personal and private issues at all stages in life, not just when they become parents. We need to challenge men and step away from dominant norms, from traditions, from patriarchy. This will not be easy. We know that because we're not only gendered, we're also formed by our sexual identity, our ethnicity, our religion, our ability. But we want men to start changing. Traditionally, men meet in men-only groups to watch sports, play sports, listen to music, etc., etc. A lot of these times, men talk about women negatively. We want to transform these arenas to arenas where men can come closer to themselves and each other and talk about personal and private issues. One example could be that men become active bystanders that say no when their friends are doing women-unfriendly talking. Men live in relationships. Men are fathers, partners, and friends. So one way to reach gender equality will be to create these safe spaces for men where they can enjoy talking about private issues. I represent a network called MenEngage, as I heard in Spanish in the beginning, and the organization called Men for Gender Equality Sweden. We are movements for feminist and pro-feminist men and women. We want to become a critical mass that can make an impact, but then men have to start engaging. We want men to speak up and be agents and leaders for change, as the personal is political. Women's economical empowerment goes hand in hand with men's caregiving, and men stepping up as caregivers is needed for women's full participation in the labor market. If men start caring, we will have a less violent society, as our society is a very violent one, at least in Sweden. So as men, we're part of the problem, so we need to be part of the solution. It's a win-win situation. Men who engage in equality benefit, as do women and children. So, let us be the change. Let us be personal and private. Men, listen. Let us transform masculinities and be the change. Let us create spaces where we can be personal and private, be caregivers, and stand up for gender justice. Traditionally, who have been standing up for gender justice? Women. So men, we need to start stepping up for gender justice as well. Women's rights are, after all, human rights. We must engage men and women together for gender justice. Men in the room, look at yourselves. Look at each other. Society, everyone will win on men working hand in hand with women for gender equality. Men engage and act for gender justice, private, personal, and political. Men, once again, look at yourselves. Be part of the change. Let us shift the balance and create spaces where we can talk, integrate, speak up. Because remember, it starts with me.